be talking about today are 4 different topics. One is the very challenging issue of how to identify breeds, especially bully breeds in animal shelters, since they don't come to us with pedigrees and they come to us with just a phenotype or a body type, and shelter staff are tasked with identifying what kind of dog this might be. Presents a lot of challenges, especially as it pertains to the second topic, which is breed-specific legislation. And this is special laws that restrict the activities of certain breeds or types of dogs. We're going to be talking about the illegal use of bully breeds in dog fighting enterprises, which many people may not realize is very common, including right here in Alachua County. There are multiple dog fighting arrests every year. And then finally, what we can do as shelter staff and rescue groups and veterinarians to promote responsible bully breed ownership and what that entails. So with that, I'd like to invite up our first panel of speakers who will address the topic of breed identification.
So breed identification is a really important part of veterinary medicine, particularly for bully breed dogs. Today we're going to discuss what is a bully breed dog and how it's different from the American Pit Bull Terrier, also the methods of breed identification and the shelter and veterinary role in assigning breed. So the American Pit Bull Terrier originated from the British Isles in the early 19th century. They were bred as a cross between the bulldog and the terrier. They gained their strength from the bulldog and their gameness from the terrier. They originally bred for bull and bear baiting, which became illegal in 1835. Subsequently, they were used in dog fighting, but even during that time, they were bred to be human friendly. They were also used as working and family dog. They were used to protect their livestock, their children, and also for companionship. When they were brought over to America just prior to the Civil War, those that were left in the United Kingdom were bred to evolve to become the Staffordshire Bull Terriers. While they were here, they became known as America's dog in the early 20th century. They were used in war posters. They were involved in propaganda. Sergeant Stubby was a bully breed type dog in World War II, presumably an American Pit Bull Terrier, World War I. They were involved in Little Rascals and even as commercial mascots, but their popularity waned post-World War II. The current modern American Pit Bull Terrier was recognized by the United Kennel Club in 1898. Their breed standards include a medium size. The males top out at 60 pounds and the females at 50 pounds. Their head is broad, their skull is flat and wide, and they have a deep muzzle. The ears can be both natural or cropped, and their short coat comes in many colors and patterns. Serious faults include any disproportionate, overly bred characteristic, including short legs, overly massive heads or bodies, which would interfere with the dog's working ability. Pit bulls today are still capable of performing the same jobs as they have historically, but they're primarily considered companion animals today.
A bully breed is a breed of dog that has a reputation for being dangerously aggressive. This definition includes the pit bull type dogs, like the bulldog, the mastiff, and the American Staffordshire Terrier. Most of the bully breeds are athletic in stature and very active, and this stereotyped aggression has mostly stemmed from their historical purpose of bull baiting. Although bully breeds are viewed as aggressive biting machines by some, these breeds can be the most people-friendly, affectionate dogs and have served wonderfully in family homes and social environments. They are very intelligent animals and are characteristically quite loyal to their owners. There are a number of bully breeds out there that are frequently labeled as a pit bull, but they are in fact their own separate breed. Some include the American Bulldog, the Boxer, Bull Mastiff, King Corso, English Bulldog, Presa Canario, American Mastiff, and Rottweiler, just to name a few. For bully breeds in general, there is also an extremely negative public perception that they do not always deserve. There is extensive overcoverage of dog attacks by the media involving short-coated muscular dogs, and they're identified as pit bulls. The media is supporting that negative public perception of bully breeds by only reporting pit bull attacks due to its sensational value, and not attacks by other breeds of dog, even though any dog can bite. And untrained laypeople are assigning the breed that goes on public record for these attacks. The general public, not having any training in breed identification, believes the reports on the news, and the cycle of fear continues. But why is breed identification so important anyway? Why can't we just have a bunch of Florida brown dogs running around? In a shelter setting, breed identification is important because one of the major responsibilities of every shelter is to try to reunite owners with lost pets. Having an accurate breed description will help owners find their dogs when calling or visiting the shelter, and also for performing effective online searches for their dogs. For people searching for a new pet, websites like petfinder.com and other adoption agencies many times use breed to match a dog to a potential adopter. An accurate breed designation is something people can identify with and help the people predict what their dog's specific needs will be. Some areas of our country enforce breed bans and breed-specific legislation, which also requires accurate breed identification. If we're going to tell someone that they can't own a pit bull or a bully breed, we probably should first have an accurate tool for identifying what a bully breed is. Breed identification is also important in order to provide predictions of both behavioral and personality traits, such as expected energy level, predictions of any predisposed health concerns, such as cancers, heart disease, or hip dysplasia, and can estimate the adult body size, weight, and grooming requirements. What about shelters, which take in thousands of dogs per year? How do they identify breed? Shelters mainly use visual identification based on kennel club standards and specific physical and behavioral breed characteristics. Being in the animal industry, shelter staff and shelter veterinarians can make a more educated guess as to what breed of dog is sitting in front of them than the general public may. However, it is just that, a guess. Inconsistencies can easily occur should the duty of breed designation rotate day to day or week to week based on staff schedules. And based on the staff's opinion on bully breeds, the designation of pit bull may be subjectively over or underassigned. Shelters may also use previous owner history to determine breed as well. If someone surrenders a dog and says it's a lab, then unless it's obviously a chihuahua, that breed designation may not change. And unless there are pedigree papers being dropped off with that dog, how do the owners truly know what breed their dog is anyway? So, in our minds, let's go on a field trip to the beach for a moment. We spot a couple walking their short-coated, floppy-eared, muscular dog, and I say, "Oh, look at that beautiful boxer mix." You might look at me and say, "Are you crazy? That is obviously a pit bull." Well, the couple tells us that it is actually a purebred American bulldog. Oops. Well, we are just two members of the general public who see a dog and make a visual interpretation of breed based on our own understandings of breed characteristics. Visual identification is the cheapest tool in our toolbox. I'm sorry. It is the least standardized and the least accurate because anyone can use it. Without that accuracy, visual identification can have devastating effects on the welfare of both the individual dog and an entire population. So, one solution to breed identification issues is genetic testing. It is now possible to use DNA analysis to interpret a mixed breed canine's ancestry. So, by the way, those are sharks in that picture. Give you a second. Okay. Mars is one of several companies to offer canine genetic testing and manufactures the Wisdom Panel. The Mars Veterinary Wisdom Panel utilizes a set of 321 known genetic markers to assess the breed compositions in a DNA sample. The markers were selected from a set of more than 13,000 reference dogs from more than 200 American Kennel Club registered breeds. The Wisdom Panel reports an average of 85 to 90% accuracy. An 85% accuracy rate is still significantly better than visual interpretation alone. The test currently costs an average of $70 to the general public, and there is a $20 per test discount provided at this time to shelters. The average turnaround time for the test is approximately 2 to 3 weeks. So shelters may benefit greatly from genetically testing their dogs. A study published in 2009 showed that only 25% of visual breed identifications made by several adoption agencies were found by DNA analysis in the tested dogs. So this means that in 3 out of every 4 cases, a dog was labeled as a specific breed that was genetically incorrect. Breed identification errors can have major consequences for the management of adoptions in shelters, public health, as well as for the dogs themselves. An accurate breed designation will ultimately assist in forming the best possible match between the owner and the pet to reduce the number of failed adoptions. which not only puts a stress on the people and animals involved, but also on the shelter's budget. It will reduce the risk of poor welfare, such as keeping a high-energy dog in a crate all day, nuisance behavior like a dog that wants to herd your children around the house. And from a public health perspective, injuries to person, pet, and community would be reduced as well. There is a more accurate tool developed for breed identification. Now the challenge is making that technology accessible to tight budgets.
So we as a group felt it was important to talk about bully breeds and their prevalence in shelters. At any given time, as many as 70% of the dogs in a shelter are considered a bully breed. And since that is such a high number and there's such a low adoption rate, they are most frequently euthanized. So it's a huge epidemic that we are trying to overcome, and we're trying to get away from the pit bull stereotype and put it more towards bully breed to kind of get away from the negative connotations. So as a group, we noticed 3 different types of shelters. We all went on shelter visits, and we kind of wanted to talk about some of the policies the shelters have in place. The shelters don't have strict guidelines on how they assess the pets. Many times it's based what Kimberly was saying about visual assessment, and genetic testing is too expensive for many of the shelters at this point. So no adoption shelters such as Miami-Dade Animal Services are not going to really even breed assess or breed evaluate. They're going to take the dog in based on citywide bans, and police are probably going to make the owner do a surrender, and you're either going to euthanize the pet after a certain holding period, which is usually 5 days in Miami-Dade, and if the owner wants to recover the pet, they're going to have to pay a fine and then move the pet out of the county. That's just a specific example. With a shelter that has no adoption restrictions, we run into a problem where you are not really breed assessing or breed evaluating, and many times it leads to owners not getting the proper education about the breed that they're actually getting, and sometimes it could be sending out ill-behaved dogs that would harm the breed in the long run. One huge aspect that many shelters are implementing to try to turn around the negative stereotypes of the pit bull is the pit bull ambassador programs. We visited a couple shelters that actually perform this program, and what they do is they breed assess the dogs and they find the best of the best. And what the goal is to teach the community what a good pit bull or bully breed is. See, I keep saying pit bull, I'm trying to get away from that. So that they can see what actually is good for the client, for the community. We did notice some pros and cons based on this, and some of the pros that people notice is going to decrease euthanasias, improve public image, and it's going to also follow up owner adoptions because they're very concerned with how the pit bull does out in the community. Some of the cons that we've also noticed are it singles out the breed. So it may reinforce the stereotype that this is a special breed and it needs to be looked at on its own. And it could set the bar too high for other dogs in the breed. And it could create a false sense of security for that one dog adopted. Since we are in veterinary school, most of us, we decided it would be good to kind of visit the idea of what the veterinarian's role is in breed identification. And we kind of broke it up into a shelter setting and a private practice. And I looked through our curriculum online and I didn't see any class where we have breed identification. So basically it's what experiences we've had and what we can kind of gauge by our visual assessment. We do have a role to play, and we can provide clients with adoption advice based on breed. Since they are terriers, they're going to be high-strung dogs, and we need to tell the owners what to expect. And also we can look and try to combat some associated diseases because of the breed. And with many issues such as rabies certificates, insurance form and rental agreements, our opinion of what the breed is highly regarded, and sometimes could make or break if you can sign a lease somewhere. That's our presentation. Oops. We thought breed identifications do vary across shelters and across veterinarians and communities, and it can be beneficial and detrimental to the breed to actually do these identifications. And we feel it's our duty as informed individuals of the community to promote the bully breed and try to remove some of the stigma surrounding them.